So here's a great example of this rare Balkan tattoo style that we saw from the 15th century to the 20th century. This was inspired during the Ottoman Empire when they invaded, the Turkish people invaded this region. The Christian women would get tattooed on their hands because the Turks thought that tattooed people were unclean. So these women would get these very intricate Christian, kind of Coptic Christian symbols, and you don't see that anywhere else. It's very rare, and it's one of the fascinating aspects of the Balkans underground art culture. I think the impetus to dedicate my life to tattooing started midway through my apprenticeship in the early 90s. I didn't like tattooing as a young person, and I was intimidating. These people seemed very rough to me. But then I had a life. I got divorced. I had to get my own career. I was working as an artist in an art room, and there was such a disconnection between the work I was doing as professional, working commercial artist, and I really craved working one-on-one with people, creating for their art, their vision. And tattooing really served that need. But it wasn't until I was maybe my second year into tattooing that I realized how much it owned me and how much I loved it. My philosophy of tattooing is that there's no real purpose to tattoo. To mark oneself, there's no need. It doesn't feed you. It doesn't give you rest. But what it does do is solidify an identity in a world where we're a head, we're two arms, two legs. We can look at each other and pass judgment on race, religion, but this is for ourselves. This is a thing we mark, we make, just to say, I am here, this is me, and also maybe a remembrance too as we move along in our life of what life has contributed to us and what we have given back to life. My favorite tattoo artist was this Meister here, Lyle Tuttle, who we recently lost. He passed on. 70 years he was tattooing, and he tattooed many celebrities, Janis Joplin, and he was our great orator. He was our great historian in tattoo. So even 70-year arc was very old for tattooing, and he would go all over the world and speak at conventions and teach us the history and help us respect the people that had come before us. That now tattooing is so popular. When he started 50 years ago, it was very rare to have tattoos, and only criminals or bikers or something. So he witnessed the arc of it coming into common culture, and he was our great philosopher, and he was our great historian, and so he's my favorite in that sense. He never was a big artist guy, but he was a humanist guy, and his career was amazing. I take my inspiration from nature and from people. I was thought when I was younger that I could draw. I was this great illustrator. But it wasn't until I began to tattoo people, and then it became tens of people, and then hundreds of people, and then thousands of people, that humanity worked on me, and that inspires the art that I'm moving into now, maybe as a painter. But I don't think without tattooing I would have appreciated the depth of just individual stories. You see this mom there, you think she's normal, or some guy's a construction guy, and he must be boring. And the stories that I get to hear that come out of these people is astounding, and makes me so appreciative of being a human and that I get to participate like this. Well, and interestingly, we are an old, maybe the oldest art form. So the guy they pulled out of the Iceman, Owetsi, had tattoos on him. But now we've seen an explosion with technology. The iPad has really expanded the capacities of tattooers to replicate nature in reality on skin. And Instagram has made tattooing universal throughout. You can go to Moscow, you can go to Florida, you can go to Japan and still see the same trends of tattooing thanks to the communication tool of Instagram. And all this goes back to maybe television. Tattooing wasn't, it was still pretty minor counterculture until the TV shows came. And then once the TV shows came, the tattoo shops in people's living rooms, and it's not this weird, creepy place. It's kind of this fun, exciting rock and roll experience. And now we've seen more and more people come with knowledge that they never had either. People would be very limited with what they thought. They'd want Bugs Bunny because they saw Bugs Bunny, on somebody's butt, But now because of the TV and Instagram, they come with great ideas, and it's way more exciting to be a tattoo artist now, thanks to the technology and the creativity of our clients. My motto, Believe for Freedom, comes from probably my military family. My father's a fighter pilot, my brothers were fighter pilots, and I was never in the military, and I went this other way, this artistic life and this tattoo life. And I think that what it's shown me, one who was against tattoos initially, that there's another way, that in a sense we all have to bleed for freedom. And this is a way of defining your mark, defining your independence, and living with it. Post-operative scar coverage is a new frontier for tattooing. We're talking about nipple reconstruction for mastectomy patients who have lost their breasts and their nipples with it. So I have the privilege of working with surgeons in New York City who do these meticulous breasts. They'll take fat from your belly and reconstruct a breast with it, tying together these little micro capillaries and creating living tissue and living breast. And the only thing it misses is the cherry on the top, which would be a 3D reconstructed nipple. So with our skills as tattooers, we're being called upon more and more to do this very important work, and I'm very excited to spread the word about this. I love this question with this tattooing in the Balkans. Now, when I first came here 5 years ago, I didn't see tattoo shops, and I saw small tattoos coming around. And there's this great underground force that's post-war, basically, coming from the Balkans. And we were the first legal tattoo shop to open in Montenegro. There's only one legal tattoo shop in Serbia. So what we do have is what we call bootleggers, folks working outside of their apartments. But what I think is most exciting is with my staff, I work with young Montenegrin artists, is their real drive to define a Balkan style. And which is very difficult. We've mentioned Instagram and the TV shows, and everything kind of looks the same. And I tell them, I'll be teaching them, like, you need to paint that that looks like that, and they'll be like, okay, and then they'll go off and do their own thing. And it's always kind of exciting to see how their style is progressing, even in the face of all this influence. In the West, they kind of all look the same. Tattoos kind of are starting to look the same. And the young Balkan artists, I think from the nature of being separated so long, are really driven to find their own style. So that's what I find exciting here. One thing I would change in the world would be treating the ecology. We have a plastic island in the Pacific 3 times the size of France, and I want to see more sustainability. Another wonderful thing about living in Montenegro is the opportunity to see these beautiful untouched mountains and this gorgeous sea, and the people here live closer to the land, and they have less influence from consumerism, and throw it away. Kind of, they're more into the sustainability mentality. So maybe more of what Montenegro is doing. I'd like to see that paid attention to in the world. Life would be a song. It's a wonderful world. One thing I cannot live without is my eye mask that I sleep with and my earplugs. There's no way I would go through life without eye mask and earplugs. When I end up on a deserted island, the 3 things I would take with me would be my music, my internet connection, and my boyfriend, and a good frying pan to cook whatever I catch. The one phrase I could describe the life that I'm living would be joie de vivre. I live the joy of life, and I'm so blessed to do that.